You're up, Commissioner.
All right, Christie.
Christy Davenport, Management Assistant. I have brought Mr. Gary Cooper and Anita Hymas, Jennifer Clark, and Christy Klauser as part of this conversation as well. So if you all would like to join me. I received a phone call a few weeks ago from a gentleman by the name of Bill Patton, who did not have a homeowner's exemption on his home for the past 9 years. To my understanding, he has reached out to the assessor's office, I believe, and received the last 2 years of his homeowner's exemption, but he is requesting the additional 7.
Okay. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Moser.
Please introduce yourself.
Yeah, Gary Cooper, and I represent Bill and Noreen Patton. They're in their 90s. They would have been here today, except for Bill can't see well enough to drive anymore, and Noreen is on oxygen, and she can't be here long enough to bring him here. So he asked me to be here. I think this all arises from a quitclaim deed that was prepared by my office to deed the property to his daughters, reserving life estate for he and Noreen in the property. And apparently that was missed, and as a consequence, he didn't get the homeowner's exemption. This was brought to his attention, I believe, a year ago, and as and I'm sorry, Ms. Davenport, Christie just said he was refunded 2 years of that, and he thinks that he should have it all the way back to 2013 when this deed was recorded. That apparently is what caused the homeowner's exemption to be taken off.
Okay.
There is a statute that I think permits this sort of thing when it's a mistake on the part of the county. It's Idaho Code Section 6313.
And I would agree, this isn't a mistake on the part of the county. It's the homeowner's responsibility to file for that. And so it's
You
not
just said that it was a mistake when a quitclaim deed was done upon by your office and that, so why should the county pay for that then?
Well, because I think it was the county that took the homeowner's exemption off or denied it.
if it isn't applied for or denied, there was a reason.
Well, then I think it was denied because he had it all the time before that.
But he had to file for it every year.
No, once he filed and he changed it, and the quitclaim deed was changed, so who was the owner of the property then at that time?
He's the owner of the property.
Well, no,
Still is.
he quitclaimed the deed to somebody, right?
Well, yes, but he reserved the life. Reserved the life estate. That gives him the ownership right.
And then he looks at his tax bill every year, and it says in Idaho Code, in Section 63 specifically, that it is the responsibility of the taxpayer to make sure that it's there. And if it is there and is found equitable and correct, which it is done at the close of the Board of Equalization, that there is no compensation that can go back to somebody other than if it was an error.
I understand.
So, with that being said, it's not an error if somebody changes the ownership. Did the ownership of the property change due to a quitclaim deed being pressed?
No,
Yes.
it did not.
So, somebody else didn't claim ownership on that house then?
No, he's still the owner because of the life estate. He reserved the life estate.
So, there's a quitclaim deed that occurred.
There is.
Okay, so, why did we file a quitclaim deed? Why did we do it? Okay, so hold on. So, who owns the property then?
He does.
Okay, so a quitclaim deed is put in place.
As long as he's alive.
It is a actionable item that changes the ownership of the property. Yes?
Well, no.
Then why did we do it then?
So that when he passes...
Hold on one sec. So, you just answered my question, what I wanted you to say. You did something that's an actionable item that changes the stance of the property, and that's what triggers that option in the office. Ownership is changing. When you're doing estate planning, then it's called, and we use this term in the military a lot, the attention to detail, that if that triggers that, it is the homeowner's responsibility to make sure that you didn't do it. It's not the government's job to take care of you. So, I have a problem. 2 years, okay, I can buy that one off. But the whole time back, no. And if it needs to go to court and be settled by a district court, then I think that that's where it needs to go, not with this board, because I do not believe it's inside the board the powers of the Board of County Commissioners to do that, and I don't think it's appropriate, and I think it sets a very dangerous precedent for us just to decide, well, we think somebody might have created an error, there was an option, or there was an action, a willing action by the homeowner and the attorney and the law office that created an issue that changed the stance of the property, and that's what triggered this.
Anything from the treasurer's office or the assessor's office?
We did send a letter out, I don't have a copy of the letter, of course, but we did send a letter out on January 23rd of 2014, letting them know, excuse me, that the letter of cancellation would be coming off. The homeowner's exemption would be coming off, because we try to let the homeowner know so they can have a time to come in.
And when was that set?
Taxes would have raised that year.
When was that set?
January 23rd of 2014.
Okay.
Okay. Anything from the treasurer's office? Christie, anything coming?
No, just if you decide to exempt or go back and allow the homeowners, we'll have to recapture all that money from all taxing districts, so.
Anything, Mr. Whitehouse?
No, because in my limited non-legal expertise on the life estate, it does sort of transfer it to the son or to the estate. She is a lifetime tenant. She loses control over the property with that. So I would tend to agree with Commissioner Tubby that if there was a letter sent and no action taken, then it is not on us at this point in time.
I mean, if they would have went in, and Mr. Cooper, I agree with you, if they would have went in once the letter was signed, and they filed the paperwork, and then nothing was happened, that is obviously the error of the county. But the ownership, no pun intended, the responsibility went back to once a letter is sent to the homeowner and the citizen to be the one to take action upon that. I don't know how we take care of and set a precedence that,
I appreciate you giving me the time here. I understand this must be hitting a real soft spot here. Point is, these are elderly people. They missed it. There's no question about it. I'm just here to see if we can get something.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I move to deny the request at this time.
We have a motion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Like Tory?
Troy Dad, Bannock County Coroner. For you today to talk about the mobile morgue trailer. We asked in the past as far as trying to get that on a grant process. It was a 50-50, it was denied. I got an opportunity through the Greater Idaho Healthcare Coalition that they will purchase this trailer for Bannock County, in the understanding that we will use it as a deployable asset to regional areas. So other counties that don't have this equipment or other counties that need to utilize this, so long as we are not utilizing it, then they would have that ability. So I just kind of want to know what direction we need to go now as far as legal to create like an MOU and what we need to do to protect that. But I did get an email that said, the Greater Idaho Healthcare Coalition has approved the purchase of a $75,000 morgue trailer for ownership by Bannock County Coroner. With this purchase, it is required that the trailer be a regional asset set up utilization for the Greater Idaho Healthcare Coalition members, nearby counties, when the need exists and the Bannock County Coroner is not currently using the morgue trailer. This can be done by setting up an MOU by Bannock County Coroner to each county coroner requesting the use of this trailer. This will require to be maintained under the county's insurance. So I guess the thing that I want to look at is what we need to do to protect ourselves as far as this asset and being able to develop an MOU with other counties, as well as setting up like a use fee so that we can, because I understand that this is kind of one-time monies that these guys are purchasing this trailer for us, but as other counties have the opportunity to use it, I'd like there to be a use fee. That way, we just put it into an account. If there's any further maintenance and things like that, it doesn't just come out of that.
Is it allowed in the grant to use the use fee? That's usually a lot of
Not a
these.
grant.
Well, so even if they're purchasing, if they're saying that we want you to be able to use this, typically they're gonna have something in there that will say, like, you can't charge somebody.
So-
That's why they're buying it, and so that's why I say is you just wanna make sure that we don't, because if they're buying something, there'll probably be a contract that we'll have to sign.
So when I discussed this, that was the pitch, was that there would be a use fee as far as maintenance.
Okay, so that's the only, you can't make money other than what is on the trailer. Does that make sense? So like the trailer, so if you deploy it and it needs tires and just regular annual maintenance, you can have a use fee that's a very nominal use fee for maintenance. But you couldn't say like, hey, we're going to charge you $500 an hour.
That would not
Because
be-
then that's money that,
And that's exactly the way it was described.
Okay.
It is only for a use fee,
Yeah.
for maintenance.
A maintenance
keep
fee.
on that trailer because this
What
is
did we
one
pay
time.
the county? What did we use there?
it was fairly nominal. It was.
So it's the same type of
Yeah.
situation.
Exactly.
That's good.
You're paying for just,
Which we could take that MOU.
yeah, I was on, yeah.
And then my question here is, Boone County just bought one.
Correct.
Do we need one?
Well-
I mean, if you're talking about leasing them out to other counties or different things, and Bingham has one right here next door, and that we could use, I mean, the commissioner, I talked to one of the commissioners up there, and he says, we have one, it's available.
Sure.
How big is it?
I guess the question being is why wouldn't we be self-sufficient when we have the opportunity that somebody else is going to buy it for us?
Well, it's still an obligation, still on our insurance, it's still,
Right?
it becomes county asset, and so in your conversation there, it doesn't become the property of the coroner.
No,
It becomes the property.
no,
I mean,
that's exactly.
you read that.
It would be,
It's
I understand
property of
that's what
Bannock
the
County.
email said, but the thing is I needed an email to present to you guys so that we would understand that the county would have ownership, not the coroner's office.
And then it comes back to the conversation we had when we purchased the truck. And your truck isn't big enough to pull the trailer.
That's correct, but we also have other trucks in the county that we could utilize that we've already talked about.
Do we have a spot for it?
Yes. So, still out at Road and Bridge, there's that lean-to that they said that we could use. So we could house it underneath that, so it's out of the majority of the weather. It's not fully enclosed, but it's out there, out of the way, and we have the option to put it in there.
Yeah, that would be probably,
And that's good when it's not being used. How do you lock it up? I mean, we gotta have
What do you
too
mean,
many
how to lock it
thoughts
up?
about bodies in our county right now.
behind the security fence.
And so that's my question.
But then you'll have a trailer lock on it, you'll have it locked up, you'll have it secure, we'll make sure that,
Yeah.
There, like I say, in a building, I know how secure it is. In a lean-to, I mean, yeah, a trailer lock,
We
yeah,
have a
door lock.
security fence
Yeah.
around there. It's no different than any other trailer parked out there. I wouldn't understand why.
Oh, it's a
this would
difference
be-
to me
Okay.
than any other trailer.
We can put a tongue lock on it.
If it's got
lock the
a
doors,
body in it, it's different than any other trailer.
If it has a body in it, I mean,
it'll be different.
yeah.
Adam, is there security cameras out there? We need to get that done. There needs to be security cameras.
I believe that Road and Bridge is budgeted to have cameras put in this year.
Well, I just saw that we was up at Northgate yesterday, and they was talking about the contractors' trailers being broke into on almost a nightly basis up there.
Right. If it was occupied, if the trailer is occupied, we get nervous. If it's not occupied, I think it's a great spot out there. When it's occupied, we need to have a little bit better security protocol than, hey, we're just gonna lock it up and leave it up to the lean-to.
That comes down to future planning, you know, as far as if there's a bay that we can get in the future, if there's something we want to do that way. But right now, I think we're pretty set up to be able to utilize something like this, and it makes us self-sufficient, and that's probably where we should be at. I don't like relying on other people's assets, because we don't know if the availability is going to be there for us. This is an opportunity to make us self-sufficient.
If we don't have any cost to it, and this is my feeling on it. If we have no cost to the county,
Right.
then I'm okay with that. If you're going into like a 50-50 split cost, shared cost, all this other stuff, and if Bingham has one, I don't see why we we deploy one, because it's, I mean, other than the funeral home incident, we don't use a mass cat, I mean, we haven't had, I mean, if we have a mass CAS event, we have a binging trailer. If we're not having to pay for it, and somebody's willing to pay for it and give it to us on the one condition that it's available to be used for other counties.
So there's two things that need to happen. One, we need to see the agreement. And it's got to pass through legal, and then through the board. And then the other is, if you want an MOU, I mean, we have a sample of the one that we used
Past legal, so.
data. So those two things we need to see.
Absolutely. And that's kind of why we're talking now, is just to say, hey, this is what's on the table, what direction do we need to go? Because I think this is a good opportunity for us.
We'll have to do a public hearing for a new fee. And some of those types of things. I'm curious, just out of curiosity, how far is the requirement for deployment? And if somebody needs it, do they come get it, or do we have to deliver it?
And that's something that we can put in the MOU. Yeah, and those are the questions that need to be discussed as far as, does their insurance cover it, or what happens if they were to, turn a corner and cause damage? Does that come off of us, or does that come off of them? That's what we need to make sure that we just protect this asset. We have an opportunity to get it, we just need to make sure everything's in place to protect it.
And $75,000 will cover the cost.
Yeah. Yep, I've already got the bid and everything, and that includes a hydraulic lift, generator to run it, the trailer itself, and delivery.
How many bodies will it hold?
So it's set up to hold, I believe, 20.
Wow.
Okay. So this is an opportunity, not only do we have a deployable asset, but I don't know if you're aware of the morgue situation right now. We have 3 bodies. That's it for the entire county, and multiple times I've had issues with Port Niff that it's going down. So they either call me and say, hey, coolers are down again, you're gonna have to come get your body, and then that puts a burden on us that we have to discuss chain of custody. Now where are we gonna store it, that nobody else has access to it? This would eliminate that. We would have something, if something happened up there, or if we just wanted to do it ourselves, we could do that. That gives us that opportunity. So, because we don't have another morgue right now, nor do we really have a plausible timeline as to when we're gonna get one. So this gives us that option.
Okay.
I'd say go for it, get the paperwork, get through the process, and let's go.
Bring us the actual paperwork.
Okay.
Make a final decision then.
Okay. Sounds good. Thanks. Thank you.
Emma?
I have some papers. I'll pass that first. Pass this down. Okay, Emma Iannacone, Public Information Officer, joined by
Dan Kendall, Project Manager.
and we're here to bring some ideas forward to update the facade of the courthouse. The seal is out of date, and we need to update that, so we figured we'd get quoted for what it would cost to update the lettering as well, kind of bring that into a more modern look. The first quote that you see is for replacing the letters and the seal. Nothing too special there, and that costs about $3,200, just a little over $3,200. The second quote you see is if we wanted to backlight the lettering with a lighting called LED halo, and that would, in the evening, it would have the letters lit up behind, so it would kind of be like dark and then light behind. It's kind of a modern, new way of their lighting signs. And that's another option if that's what the direction we want to go, and that is a little over $7,400. Dan, do you want to talk about the limitations of the lighting right now?
Sure, it's a little bit of a challenge where the letters line up with the back of Carnaroli's courtroom, so it'd be a little bit of a challenge, but if that's the direction you want to go, we'll figure out a way.
I don't believe that this also includes backlighting the seal, because I don't think that's necessary. In the evening, it would just be a circle, a lit up circle. You wouldn't be able to see the actual.
We have a light on the seal that's last time I drove by the other night, it was on.
Yes, so that, we have that current lighting option that we can continue to use and light up the seal and the lettering that way. I was just saying halo lighting for the seal wouldn't be necessary, it should be a dark circle. The options that I drafted up for you guys, that first one, the Bulmer font is the closest. I'm like 99% sure it's the same font that's actually used in the seal there. So that's kind of the classic look. My only concern there with using that one is just the skinny parts of the letters and making sure that those are visible from the street. I also included a couple of options with the Futura font, and that's kind of more of the modern, not so classic look. We've been using a similar font style in some of the window decals over at like adult probation. That area, I've noticed a similar font style. If we wanted to keep in that vein, I came up with a few fun Western ideas. The Texas Tango. I just wanted to give you some options.
As the guy that designed the logo, the seal, I would go with Boulder font and a blue.
That's the one that I figure you guys would be most inclined towards. That's the one the quote is based on.
The very first one, but instead of black, I'd do it in either, black or blue. Blue ties in with the seal and everything around it, but then black also makes it easier to see at night.
Yeah.
Because it's white. And even if you just have lights on the building shining on, I don't necessarily care if we backlight them. I mean, it would be cool to backlight them, but do you want to spend $3,500 to be cool?
Right.
I mean, it would be, knowing the power limitations of what we'd have to do and drill and
Yeah. It would be.
yeah, I mean, we'd have a crab lift up here, we'd be up here for a while trying to get all that done. And I think if you just redid the seal and made sure you had a really good LED light that's off on it, because I don't know what's on there right now.
Basically, work lights.
Yeah.
Not much.
And they're not very, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't like it wrapping around the seal. I would rather have it
straight.
Yeah, I'd rather have it straight. To me, that looks more governmental and official than wrapping it.
Do you like it being all below, like Bannock County Courthouse below the seal, or do you want Bannock County on top, courthouse on bottom?
Typically, you will have the lettering above or below the seal.
Yeah, I was going to say, let's look at it all in one. I don't want it split, so it's either all above or all below.
Okay.
But I do like that Bulmer font as well.
And the last two pages were just in case you didn't like any of the options and you wanted me to go in a completely different direction.
Yeah, I'm okay without the backlighting on the letters as well. If we got the seal lit, that's good. Part of me wonders about if you light the letters, does it look more like a shop instead of an official government building?
Also. Well, and like I said, we're not open. We're not stores.
We're closed at 5.
We're closed at 5, and a lot of times when the light signs are back, that indicates that they're open.
Right.
And that's why a lot of government buildings are never back. They're always shown. They're, this is the building, but it's not. It's supposed to look semi-closed, But yeah, no, that was one of the last things I had with that seal was to fix the front of the building.
That needs to get done. And this is kind of what I'm hoping will be the first part of a larger effort to update all of the signage on our facilities because they're so inconsistent across the board. The Bannock Highway Department doesn't exist anymore out on South 5th, so that needs to go. But just getting this one started and kind of settling on a font style and like what we want it to look like will really help us, determine what we want everything else to look like.
And I think Bannock County Courthouse above the seal.
Above the seal. Okay. Well, I can bring, I don't know, should I bring an official version for you to decide on Tuesday?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Wonderful.
Money.
And money.
Let's talk money.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because, maintenance would be more than happy to start the change, I guess.
So 32 is kind of what we're talking about there. When we've identified those funds, where they're coming from.
That was Christie's okay with that, but maintenance should pay for it.
there's plenty of money in his 461, which is project budget, so, and special projects at least, I'm not sure that's where you want it from, but.
Yeah, we're pretty far behind on getting that used.
But this is a conversation that we've had before, is when we have a project like this, let's go talk to this office, talk to Christie or whoever's in there, and let's make sure that we identify exactly where them funds are coming from. We talked about the procurement policy here later and different things. That's just part of the process. If you haven't hit that office, I mean, it's going to be Shandy's office and this office that are going to be part of every procurement that we have, and identify funds, identify what the projects are.
I'll have that line item for you on Tuesday.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm good with it.
Okay.
Okay, thank
All
you.
right, thank you. All right, Shanda. And company.
Good morning, Commissioner. Shanda Crystal, Purchasing and Economic Analyst, here with...
Adam McKinney, Chief Technical Officer.
I have 5 items, and I blame the fact that I didn't come before you a couple weeks ago, so they built up. But the first one...
It says 15 minutes.
3 minutes, please.
Yeah, I'm a fast talker. We're going. We'll start with the first one, the recommendation to award the phone system maintenance quote. We went out to bid for this project, and even though it wasn't required, we felt we would give it the opportunity to look out there and see what was potentially available, especially now that we got Bonfire. We were able to run it through Bonfire for the solicitation. We did receive 1 bid on there, and that bid has been reviewed by Adam and his team to make sure that it complied with everything we needed. And we are comfortable recommending to the board that we would award that contract to Business
Phone Specialists.
Thank you. I call them BPS altogether.
BPS. Basically, they came in 2.3% difference over what we budgeted last year. Combines it all into a single contract for the entire county. We've already allocated that amount. It's been budgeted between my department and the sheriff's department because those are the 2 largest systems. We're right at $37,000. They had originally told us they wanted $37.50 was what we were going to go up to if we maintained the original contracts. So we're right where we were with it, and the money is there. We anticipate with the changes we're making to the Quest, the CenturyLink side, we're going to the phone service bills are going to go down substantially in about 6 months' time, and that we'd like to roll after this fiscal year, because the budget's already decided. We want to take all that money into IT and pay this one bill at a time, so that we're not splitting it between the sheriff's department. And we're going to recoup that money with the money saved on the phone system, so on the service, the phone service.
Okay, I don't have anything in my packet but this. Is this part of this?
No.
Oh, okay.
Nope, that's the next one.
Okay,
So sorry. I have prepared an award letter if the board agrees to be signed.
Questions?
No, if it's gone out to bid and we're there, then...
And they actually, their bid, we did not require the terms of the contract to be the same as the terms of their original contract. We'd actually tried to downgrade some of the hours of coverage and things like that, and they actually said, we'll maintain the exact same coverage and combine it all for this price. So it actually ended up the same coverage we've already got. We've just combined it all into one nice contract that'll be signed by you guys instead of there were 3 or 4 various ones.
Okay. Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we award the phone system maintenance services contract to Business Phone Specialists as presented.
Have a motion? Good question. Motion, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Aye.
Thank you very much.
All right, I'm good.
Alrighty, the second item I have before the board today is to continue the discussion about the project management professional training. Last time I was before the board, I was tasked to go out and send out emails to ask departments of the level of interest, right? Who has people in their departments that are interested in this, receiving this training, and who is interested in being certified. That is the list, Commissioner Moser, that you had in front of you, the list of departments and employees that responded to that. There are a list of 33 that are interested in at least training, and 13 of those are interested in being certified. There is a little bit of a hiccup that departments didn't know about as I emailed them originally the first time, and that is some of the requirements to sit for the exam. I don't feel all of these positions that want to be certified are going to meet those qualifications in order to sit for that exam. I feel that they would still warrant the training for sure, but to be actually certified in that, there are requirements depending on your level of education, and then they have varying anywhere from 5 years, 16 months of project experience to 24.
Well, I think that's the whole thing is once they go through the training, if they want to sit for the exam, but they're not yet at the either correct amount of years of actual project management or depending upon what their educational background is, that would at least let them know to start tracking and building their portfolio, because you have to submit that when you actually, after you sit for the exam, you have to submit that and say, hey, I've done all these projects for this many years. And so if you've taken the training and you have done projects for a certain amount of years, and depending upon your background, whether it's high school or college degree, you can start building that portfolio, and when you then are at that time, you can take that test. So.
Yeah, but this would, like you said, give them the opportunity to start tracking those.
Yes.
You can go back for 8 years.
Yes.
So, right, there are some of us that would be already qualified once we finish the 35 hours of training time. We would be able to move forward and sit for that exam. But, right, there's an 8-year period to gather up these various months of experience depending on, excuse me, your education level.
So, I guess my question is, should we send out another email with the updated information to, I mean, at least to these people that are here, and reevaluate the commitments?
I mean, as I look at it, I think there's really only probably 3, maybe 4 that I would pay for to get the full certification.
Yes.
Everybody on there, I have no problem getting the actual training and being able to
get them started.
But I can really only think of 3, maybe 4 that I would think would justify the full certification.
Yeah.
And there are, like all certifications, continuing education requirements. You have to do 60 professional development units in 3 years. So this company has a program where you can do them here, you can do them elsewhere.
And there's a lot of ways you can do them too.
Yes.
There's a lot of ones that are, yeah, it's not that hard to do it. Like I said, and I agree with Jeff, there's 3 or 4 people right on that list that, yeah, definitely would be there. But having everybody have that breadth of the language and what's going on and how it works, and then as they start working towards that, that's also something as people get promoted or as they do, that's something you're going to require for maybe some of those positions in the future, to say, hey, if you're going to be doing X, we want you to be able to achieve the certification level in a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
This is,
I think that goes into that professional development stuff that we're talking about doing with everybody is, okay, we'll give you this class now, but our intent is for you maybe 2 years down the road to...
well, and like I said, there's a lot of this stuff that, and we're finding out now, as we started to dip our toes and actually get into the world of how projects, construction, purchasing, procurement, and all of these things work. This is how the outside world's been working for a long time, and governments are very slow at getting into this and understanding that this is actually how it's done.
So, and I guess the other question is the cost, and are we sending people to somewhere, or are we bringing somebody here, and where could we hold classes? I mean, this is just a beginning step to me, and then we need to have them other answers too, is how would we set it up, and where would people be, and as we talk to elected officials and as we talk to department heads, I mean, it's kind of already gone through somewhat, but we need to know the commitment, because, I mean, just like we did the training last year, some people signed up and we paid, and then we didn't get results, or people didn't show up, and there's got to be the commitment. If we're going to invest funds,
And they did have some of the same questions. The department heads, as they responded back, had some of the same questions that you have. If they're sending, people out for training, if it was going to be here. They also wondered if this was going to, like that professional leadership training, if that was going to be a county covered thing or if they needed to find it within their budget. A few of them offered back that they did feel that they had funds available depending on the cost. I said all of that was a moving target until we decide, right? If I think the general direction is to bring the training here with this number of people. Oh, they would recommend keeping the class to 20 to 25 people. That was also a concern with the number of people we had. And potentially we had kind of thrown around opening it up to other agencies that were here and asking them to join us as well. That's still an opportunity if we wanted to travel down there to reach out to see who might be interested, depending on how we want to roll forward. But we might split this list in half, right? Do half of us this year, half of us next year. Open it up to various agencies to see if they're interested in attending. Or as I reach out for actual commitment on things, right, this number could adjust.
Well, I think that we would have 20 to 25 county people right now.
Yeah.
And so rather than opening it up to other agencies at this time, if it becomes a process, then we can open it up. But I'd like to be able to be a cheerleader for the process before we open it up to others and try to get them involved.
Okay, so I can reach back out to these departments and ask them for commitments. Are we, does the board want to bring the training here? Because that was the concern if, employees were going to be gone for 3-4 days, or if they were going to be here.
Well, I think it'd be cheaper to bring it here.
Not travel, not hotels, not meals, none of that? Okay.
Well, some of the people that I've talked to that have actually done this, that's actually what they've done, is they'll bring in somebody, and it's usually a lot cheaper than ever sending people this way. So.
Pay for the class and one person's food and lodging.
For a couple days, yep.
And there are, as far as how many, we can start looking right again at the landfill. If the event center has a room big enough for this group, I can start researching.
Well, and that's something that we can talk about, but even if we have to talk to somebody or at least somewhere else, on stuff like this, I like to go outside. If you're in one of our facilities or whatever, people don't take it as seriously, just like our training out there at the landfill and stuff. Well, I got this, but I can run out there for a few minutes. No, if you're going off-site, you're more committed, in my opinion.
Yeah.
The Chubbuck conference area is amazing.
And
The Chubbuck City.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And it's free.
And it's free unless if you're doing it for this type of a purpose, it's free. And if there's going to be food served, then you have to put a $200 cleaning deposit down. But as long as nothing happens, you get that back.
I like going outside.
Yeah. That would be, I think that's probably the best option.
What you're going to need.
Excellent. Okay. We'll reach out to the city and see if we can't arrange a day and time. The other question of the funds, that was thrown out that there potentially could be some this year. I didn't know if we wanted to move forward with some of that professional training that we had left over in this year's budget, if we wanted to wait for next, if we want to reach out to departments and have them have skin in the game.
Look at both avenues, honestly. I mean, as you bring back what the price is, the total price is, and then we can talk about which departments and who's paying for what and who's going further and what the county's paying for.
Okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind if they had a little skin in the game, but if we have some of our training money left, which I don't know if we do, Christie's going, no, so.
Sorry.
Well, wherever we have it, I would like them to have a little skin in the game, so.
So I'll start researching with Christie and get a couple options going of how we might be able to move forward with that this year. And depending, do I understand correctly that we want to move forward with the 35 hours of training that it would take somebody to get certified if they so choose? That is the training that we would like to bring here.
I guess I don't, what's the difference between the certified and the other then?
So there are a couple different, and I can resend that out. They had like a single-day course. It was like a refresher that went over a lot of the basics, a high-level review of a lot of the basics. And then they have 2-day courses, and then they have the 35 hours of training that would need to go into an individual certified.
Yeah.
I can run a couple options there and see what it would cost for, because the 2-day training, obviously, right, we're not going to fit 35 hours of training in those 2 days, but I can run that as well as the 35.
Well, I think that this is where you talk about, like, with all the people on this list, I think you need to have, so there are, like, the 2-day stuff is like for somebody who needs to understand project management, what's going on, learns the lingo, starting to figure it out, can go in and take something like that, and I think there's 3 or 4 people in there that you can actually do the full-on 35-hour credit class, and that, on top of that, so they'll gain their developmental credits, whatever you want to call it, from that 2-hour block, but then they'll need another block of credits to sit for their exam. And so, like I did, I just went in and I just got me a video on a course on demand for my entire thing. And so that's what I would do, is probably have the in-person, go through it, and then you can do, there's actually the test prep educational portion that you can actually find, and then they can do that on their own whenever they want to get through that, and then sit for their test. That would probably be the best way to do it, but have a general session of, the 1 or 2 day,
That's kind of what I
go
was.
through everything, hey, this is where it's at. And if we have the right room, you can actually get some of the courses that are cheaper, having the instructor's online with you, but they're not there. They're just being telecast through. We've done those a lot, and that's actually pretty good if you have the right room. If you don't have a room that has all the setups in it, like one of the distance learning rooms up at ISU or one of those, then I would say that, yeah, bring them out, but have that.
I think that would, doing something like that initial 2-hour thing or whatever it was, 2-day, whatever, for that whole list, and then from there, that would help whittle it down to see who really wants to go on. And that's where you have the departments put more skin in the game.
That would help them also know then, because a lot of that is in the 2 days application, right? How do I apply what I've learned here to what I'm actually going to do in my everyday task? So that would give the department heads and the employees themselves, right? Is this really something that I'm going to need to, that I do every day? Or is this something that I just dabble in that I need to learn the language?
Yeah.
So I like that. So I can bring back to the class for the 2-day workshop, and then just know that those that are interested in getting certified, we'll look at another option for them to further that, finish out that 35 hours. Okay, so I'll get a class on the 2-day workshop, work with Christy on funding, potentially some, and have the departments kick in a little bit, and contact the city of Chubbuck to see if their training room is available.
Wendy. Call Wendy.
At the city of Chubbuck. Okay. Sorry, I thought you were talking about weather for a minute.
Yeah, I thought you said Wendy too. I was like, what?
Gotcha. Wendy at City Chubbuck. Thank you. Is there any other along this line that I should have prepared for next?
You've been 30 minutes.
Man,
You had 15.
there should be like a timer that goes out.
We do have one. It just went off.
I can bring the rest back next time.
Referred.
So that's all the questions for the PMP. Okay, excellent. Number 3 then is a contract for construction management and general contractor services for the Safety and Assessment Center. I was before the board on Tuesday with a general update on the project, and now the contract has been submitted. It is gone through legal for review, and as you can see, that was a lot to have them review in a week, so I am super grateful for their efforts in that and getting that in and out. But that is before the board for review and signature.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve and authorize signature on the contract as presented.
The motion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Headwaters will stop back in later this afternoon to finalize that contract, get it signed and fully executed. And then Booth Architecture will release what drawings we do have. They are not finished. We reported on Tuesday that they haven't been back from the civil engineer just yet, but this will at least get Headwaters to a place to start. And then we're headed for Wednesday for a kickoff meeting with all interested parties to get it going as quickly as we can. So Number 4, the procurement policy. I brought this first before the board back in July, before BOE, and we pressed pause on it. But before we head into a new fiscal year, I wanted to bring it back and hit some of the things the bigger things that we are changing. A lot of it is staying the same because we have a good process in place. We are just tweaking a little bit of items. I didn't know, there's a few items I would like to bring to the board's attention to discuss here, but then if you have any questions or concerns as we go through, if that works. Okay, if we can start with page 3, that is our first major change that we're looking at proposing for next fiscal year, is adding an informal quote process to both the services as well as the construction end of purchasing. We have first, as the team looked and reviewed, there was concerns, worried that we are slowing down the process or, adding one more hoop to jump through. So as we talked things through and talked about different contracts that we can put in place and different co-ops that we can use, what items actually would hit between that $30,000 to $50,000 range, that's the one we're talking about there. The departments were more comfortable with moving forward and presenting this to the board as an option to the board for an added layer. Bannock County doesn't do a whole ton of more than $200,000 purchases. I mean, we have big projects that we do that everybody's on board, but in day-to-day purchases, we are usually a lot less than that. So we wanted to propose something to the board that added a little bit of a double check, making sure, right, the departments weren't forming inappropriate relationships with vendors, right, and I'm just sticking with them because we golf together or something to that effect, that we wanted a double check to say that, right, I've done my due diligence, I've looked. Paper is a fun topic sometimes to talk about, especially with as expensive as it is now, but that I've looked. I've looked at Walmart, I've looked at Amazon, I've looked at Porter's, I've looked at Staples, wherever it might be, to say that we are doing our due diligence and trying to work the best with taxpayer dollars. Adding that level in there is as simple as doing that. You can Google and pull up prices on anywhere that you would like. Let's say that Adam is looking for computers and it's going to hit $35,000 worth of computers. He could get a quote from the company that he is, standard operating procedure working from. He could pull on Amazon, right, times it by the number of computers that he's looking at getting, and he can make a phone call to Bingham County to see who they use. So it's a very informal process, a very easy, but just that checks and balances to say that I've looked, that I know what I want. We're not adjusting the scope at all of what it is the departments need, but just that I've looked around at some different prices that are out there nowadays. That is something that we're adding to both the goods and services as well as the public works contractors place. Is there questions or concerns or okay? Okay.
Top page 4, your note. Talk to me about that a little bit.
The note on the departments are responsible?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that is very similar to what they are now, that they are to, if they purchase a $10,000 copier, they are to get with Christie's office and ask for an asset sticker. At that point, then auditing needs information, serial number, make, model, whatever it might be.
I'd just like it in bold. It's a process that I think that we've missed too many times.
Usually we get that information through invoices when they make the purchase.
Okay.
This is just kind of a double check that departments communicate.
Just as we're making this policy, I'd like it to be out there a little more bold, or you can just put the note in red or whatever. Just, there's a process.
Okay, perfect.
Excuse me. Are you here for something in particular?
I'm Brian Stutzman from Business Fund Specialist, and I came in case there was any questions about the renewal of our ongoing contract.
Right, we had already done that a little bit ago with Adam here, and everything is good to go. The commission accepted that recommendation, and you'll
no questions. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Meeting started at 9:30, and we're down on the list.
We moved quickly.
Thank you. Thanks.
My next item is on page 15, unless somebody has one before that.
Just real quick, some of the things we're talking about doing up at the wellness complex, specifically the amphitheater, where does that fit into here? Have you made an adjustment on some of that yet, or?
So depending on what we're referring to, there is an item on the concerts themselves that I have a meeting with legal later this afternoon to review. I believe I have found the statutes that govern them, but want to run it past legal before I bring that before the board.
Okay.
But there, as far as the same exceptions, that is back on page 4 below. That is a list of exceptions. So if there is something else that we want to add into there, we can, as far as the $30,000 to $50,000, but once we get past $50,000, it's going to be state is going to decide what those exceptions are and what they aren't. So they would follow suit on everything as far as, unless there was an exception for it.
Good. I forgot you had that meeting on Thursday, so, okay, thank you.
Yep. Okay, so on page 15, that is just the public works construction portion of the $30,000 to $50,000. This would just include some of the smaller well, not small, some of the projects that Dan handles as far as remodeling goes, or some of the smaller sheds or things like that we do. This would just capture a few of those that we're just making sure, again, that we're doing our due diligence with tax funds. Okay. Page 18. So there's a note about halfway down the middle of that page that says that we may charge each bidder a reasonable plan copy fee. So as I looked and reviewed that section, I can't imagine it. So what that is when we have larger documents that have been created by an engineer or an architect or something like that, is what those plan copy fees refer to. So it's something that we had worked in conjunction. Generally speaking, we've had those at the landfill before. That engineer holds those documents. The bidding process says that you have to go to whoever that engineer is for copies, that they can charge fees or get access to them digitally, or however that engineering firm is handling it. I just wanted an option if for any reason Bannock County had those, that we then have the same recourse of, if we have a 100-page document, that we have the ability to charge that individual if they want a paper copy of things. Is added to the list of proposed fees for 2023, if we ever needed it. It's in there. It's $1 a page, so it's not crazy, but just so if somebody did want them and we did have them, we could charge it if we wanted to.
Okay.
And my next one is on page 24. At the very bottom of that page, on the note, it does say, at the discretion of the BOCC, a commissioner may sit on any evaluation committee. We have not, as of yet, asked for a commissioner to be on any of those review committees. It was my understanding that the commissioners as a whole didn't feel comfortable, if they were going to sign a contract at the end of the day, being able to sit and review. I didn't know if we wanted to leave it as an option, if we wanted to take that out altogether and say, nope, as a precedent, the board that is going to sign eventually a contract will not sit on a committee. Or if they're...
I have no problem with somebody possibly sitting as a member of a committee.
Okay.
It'd just be one, and then, so.
Yes, we would
I
only
have no
ask for
problem.
one. Okay.
Leave it in there is what I'd say.
Okay, so that discussion would come before the board as a whole to be able to allow a commissioner for a specific project to sit on that. But most often, right, we're going to look at those cross-disciplinary teams that don't evolve. We try to avoid a lot of elected officials too, but there's been times and projects that we've needed to ask for the clerk, the sheriff, to be a part of those as well.
We want to use people's expertise in whatever capacity we can.
Okay, perfect. The next item I have is on page 31. And fees section goes over contracts in general. They are currently saying that we need a contract for anything that's in excess of $30,000. I have adjusted the language just a little bit from the copy that you have in front of you on the note. I felt there needed to be a little more clarification. It says if you are unsure whether or not your purchase needs a contract, contact the prosecuting attorney's office. While Brian and his staff work under there, I would like to add the language to contact the civil attorney in the prosecuting attorney's office.
Yeah.
I just felt that was a little more clear of who we were heading towards than.
You okay with that?
So I've added that in there. I did want to, on C, the one-year contracts, just want to triple check that it had the right language that the board would prefer. The very last sentence says the options to renew for an additional one-year period can be added as a term of the contract.
I'll okay with that. Because a lot of times companies will come in and they'll bid on it, but just doing it in 1 year, a lot of times companies get kind of nervous about that. If we're going to put a whole bunch of work and a bunch of expense into something to get the contract, and we only have 1 year, is it going to pencil? And typically, if you give them a 1 year with an option to renew, it makes them.
A little more. There was, I thought of some of the contracts that are up at the landfill in regards to this, that some of them take 6 to 8 months to get you really up and running on that project. And then as you finish out, again, right, then what's saying that if I may or may not get it next year, that is a huge learning curve for Kyle and his staff to then retrain new engineers every year or things like that, that potentially there might be a contract where the board is interested in a 1 year renewal. But I can change or adjust language, however.
I'm okay with that.
Okay. And that was my last one that I wanted to bring towards the board's attention, unless you had questions or.
Where does this, or does it address rentals?
So this does not. That is going to be a separate conversation. I don't address who can sign or anything like that in the policy itself. So that is another item that I'm working towards with that team to be able to come out with a process that's going, the commission might be comfortable enough to adjust how we currently do rental agreements.
Would that be a part of this, or would that just be its own standalone policy?
I don't know, because right now, I don't address being able to sign contracts in here. I don't know.
I thought you had in here only the commission can bind the county.
Yes.
For contracts. So you kind of do have it.
Oh, I thought that was just a note that, I thought you had it, and that's, okay, I can do some more research, because I am well over my 15 minutes. But I can do some additional research, and then as I bring that back before the board, I can either recommend amending this, or I don't even know where else.
Have it as an amendment, or is it
something like that?
I just know that's a hot topic right now, and so I was just curious. I didn't see it in here, so I was just.
You know what's beautiful about this is appendixes can be added, and there's 27 letters in the alphabet. Appendix A.
So if the commission is all right with this, I do have a place to sign. It is dated for Tuesday. I wanted to discuss and see if there was anything that needed to be reviewed or changed, but I would like to submit that for signature on Tuesday if that.
Yes.
Okay, great. Last item is an update. We're working with Road and Bridge. We've identified that the snow cutting blades have been done differently in the past than how we want to move forward. So I'm working together with Josh Moss on creating the specifications for that, and that should come before the board in about a month or so. The maintenance cleaning service, we did receive one bid, and those are under evaluation to make sure that they can comply with what we need them to do. I had a great meeting with Scott about the wellness gravity sewer system, and currently their engineer is estimating them to be anywhere between 30 to 60 days ahead of schedule today. That could change as things get going, as they get into the dirt and things like that, but we are thrilled with that response at this point. At the landfill expansion, all of the dirt has been removed, and they are bedding the slopes, and they are also on schedule to be done before the snow flies. The last one is the historical museum roof has started. It started on Monday, and they anticipate, just cutting out a section and laying stuff down so that there's no leaks or additional damage to especially the place where we already have problems, but they are moving through just as quickly as they can, and we are thrilled that that project is finally done.
So they should have that done this year.
We're gonna pay for it next. Didn't we move the money?
But it's still in this year's budget. So if they can get her done this year.
Well, if they're starting,
Then we just
if
take
they're
it out.
starting within 30 days, they'll be done.
Yeah, they should,
They'll be done.
take that long, right?
Yeah, they should be done.
Sorry,
Hold on. Unless they have a major.
Okay, but if I can get a certain percentage finished or complete or anything like that,
They'll be done.
Submit. So Sorry, I thought I was waiting until October.
We added budget authority next year, but we didn't do that. I mean, we just budgeted both years, just in case. So whatever's not spent this year can be spent next year if we need to, but if it's all spent this year, then we'll reduce it from next year.
Okay, then I will work with Chrissy. When is the deadline that we can submit?
I sent invoices, or I sent an email Monday.
Okay.
October 6th is going to be the cutoff to receive invoices, and the commission will approve those on the 14th.
If they're not done, there's a problem.
Okay, so then I will do that.
With their capability.
Yes, perfect. Okay, awesome, that is great news. That is all I have for my 15 minutes.
All right. For that hour. We'll be at recess till 11 a.m. at President Satterley's office.